Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling podcast video type thing. Today we're going to take things in a slightly different direction. Lucha Underground has been picking up more and more fans with each passing episode, and doing so a lot of comparisons have been made between this and Wrestling Society X. Now, if you're not familiar with Wrestling Society X, then there is a good reason for this, which is why we're going to address it in this particular episode. Now, WSX, for short, was a short-lived wrestling promotion that aired on MTV during 2006.
What, is something actually good on MTV?
Oh, yeah. Oh. And it was pretty much a love-it or hate-it affair. You were either blown away by it and were thoroughly entertained by Wrestling Society X's ridiculous, over-the-top, explosive-laden matches, or you thought it was absolutely bloody stupid. My opinion? Bring on the explosions.
Michael Bay!
Now, that's a good thing. If Michael Bay booked professional wrestling, it probably would look a bit like Wrestling Society X, actually.
Yeah.
Now, like Lucha Underground, Wrestling Society X was presented as a secret society of wrestling that used a venue referred to as the WSX Bunker, complete with an artificially worn-out looking ring. Now, in matches held within this venue, every match was anything goes and false count anyway. Those were the normal stipulations. Although the programme also stood out due to its unorthodox approach to professional wrestling. It included a regular use of very obvious plants in the audience, crowd sound effects that were obviously dubbed on, electrical sound effects, visual special effects, and the camera shaking whenever a wrestler got electrocuted by weapons, which happened often.
By the way, plants of the audience, we don't mean like potted plants, we mean the people.
There's a cactus in the audience.
It's Cactus Jack, everyone!
Now, what with it being on MTV, Wrestling Society X actually featured musical guests that would play during the television broadcast. And then those band members would actually then join the broadcasting team for commentary in time for the main event. Now, there wasn't a moment that went by in Wrestling Society X's all too brief existence that I didn't enjoy. You had X-Pac, Vampiro and Judas Messiah putting each other through exploding coffins wrapped in barbed wire.
What?
Yes, really. To such goofy yet awesome characters like Matt Classic, who was actually Colt Cabana in a mask as a throwback to wrestling in the 50s and 60s. There was the Human Tornado, who had balls of steel, so low blows didn't work on him. You'd punch him in the balls. Oh, don't work, he's got the balls of steel.
What?
And there was that 70s team, which included the Disco Machine and Joey Ryan, who's known these days as the Master of the Boobplex.
What?
Even the ring announcer in Wrestling Society X was a completely over-the-top creation. And it wasn't just the wrestlers that were over the top either. There were also some completely crazy stipulation matches. In particular, the last episode, which featured a piranha death match and an exploding steel cage time bomb death match.
That sounds like the most badly wrestling match in the universe.
That's some good times right there. And that was the important thing about Wrestling Society X. Yes, it was stupidly over the top, even by wrestling standards. Yes, the explosions were obviously fake. Yes, the special guest stars were bloody terrible on commentating and clearly didn't have a bloody clue what was going on. But by God, it was entertaining. Now think about that. When was the last time you watched a wrestling show and found yourself actually grinning like a lunatic and laughing from beginning to end? Certainly not for TNA, and probably not all the time for WWE. But with Wrestling Society X, it was always a blast. Yes, pun fully intended, what of it? But it wasn't just silly gimmicks. Wrestling Society X had some incredible acrobatic action, courtesy of Matt Sydal, who would later go on to become Evan Bourne in the WWE. Tyler Black, who's now known as Seth Rollins in WWE.
Alright.
And the self-proclaimed future of wrestling, Teddy Hart, who probably would have a better career if it weren't for the fact that he had a shit attitude away from the wrestling ring. I would certainly recommend catching some episodes of Wrestling Society X if you can. If you're interested, then you'll need to pick up the complete first and last season DVD in order to have everything that Wrestling Society X had to offer, including stuff that was never broadcast. Unfortunately, the DVD that we've got here is merely just part 1. And from what I can see, there was never a part 2 released over here in the UK, which is a bit crap. Failing that, you can likely catch full episodes of the show right here on YouTube. In fact, if you actually take a look at our channel, we've actually got a full playlist set up already for Wrestling Society X. So be sure to check those out if you can. But either way, if I was doing this as like a DVD review, which I suppose I am, Wrestling Society X would get a thumbs up.
Woo!
And I'm likely going to be reviewing more DVDs in this podcast type format, where we actually don't show any footage of the matches, we just talk about it. It's distributed by Big Time Entertainment. The last time I reviewed one of their DVDs, it was the King of the Death match that Cactus Jack won. That actually got pulled off YouTube due to a copyright claim. There's been a number of other sort of DVDs I've tried to review on here, and they've also got pulled by a copyright claim. So chances are, if I review any more DVDs in future, it'll be done like this sort of podcast type format where we talk about it. But in short, Wrestling Society X probably probably looked upon with a bit of a I don't know, maybe a sort of a sideways glance to say, what the hell was that? But it's definitely worth checking out if you're in the slightest bit curious. But yeah, as I said before, Wrestling Society X deserves a thumbs up from us here at All-CAW Wrestling. Until next time, I'm the Big Daddy D.
Little Daddy, yeah.
Oh, and Little Matt knew.
Yeah, he was here too.
He was here the whole time, just sitting here silently eating a pot pie or something. And we're signing out for another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling podcast type thing. Bye!
Back into your cupboard, you.